Myths and legends have been an important part of every culture since the beginning of time. They preserve history and pass down traditions, values, and morals to the next generation. They can also teach us valuable lessons about the world around us and human behavior in a way that is easy to understand and apply to our own lives. The myths and legends I will be reading today come from the book Stories of the Sioux by Luther Standing Bear. The name Sioux refers to three wider tribal groups, the Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota, each having a strong tradition of storytelling. The first story I'll be reading is called Standing Bear's Horse. For a long time, the enemies of the Sioux had been troubling them, taking their ponies and running off the buffalo. At length, Standing Bear I asked the braves to go with him to help punish the enemy and to make them return to their own land. 10 warriors responded, so the party left for the warpath. All traveled on foot except Standing Bear. He rode his horse, a beautiful and intelligent animal. Standing Bear thought more of this trustworthy friend than of any of his other possessions. For days, the party traveled towards the edge of their land, the enemy always keeping out of sight, for they wanted no open fights with the Sioux, who they knew were the bravest of brave fighters. At last, the Sioux met the enemy and gave them punishment they were to remember for some time. But by this time, they were at the farthest point of their homeland, and it was a long journey home, so Standing Bear and his warriors were very glad to turn back towards their village. Great plains lay between them and their teepees on the bank of Porcupine Creek. Coming away from their village, they had traveled over beautiful plains which were soft with waving grasses and plentiful with animals that fed here and there. But on their return trip, they discovered that a fire had swept the plain and everywhere it was black with ashes. There was not a sign of life. The animals had fled in front of the heat and smoke of the prairie fire. For days they traveled, but no buffalo were in sight, and even the birds, always so many, were not to be seen or heard. Fields of sunflowers lay on the ground, their stalks dead and black. The little streams were edged with grass and weeds trying to grow once more. As the days wore on, the food that the warriors carried ran low, and only in small spaces far apart could the trustful pony find a few mouthfuls to eat. All of the travelers became hungry and weary. Day after day they hoped to find a stray animal, but the land was deserted of all creatures. At night the warriors lay down exhausted, hoping that the next day their luck would be better. Standing Bear's horse seemed to sense the misery of the braves and the helplessness of his own want and hunger. When they lay asleep at night, he acted as scout. At the slightest noise, he would arouse them with a snort, and they would awake, fearing a chance enemy or hoping for an animal at which to shoot. The horse was their most dependable friend, and as they grew weaker, they watched him closer for warnings. At last, however, the warriors became so weak they could no longer make a day's journey. Without food, they would never reach their village, so they begged Standing Bear to kill his horse that they might continue the journey. Standing Bear looked at his suffering friends with pity. He was weak and hungry himself, yet when he looked at his faithful horse, his heart was touched. It was hard to see his friend starving, but when he again looked at his pony standing dejectedly but submissively by, he knew it would be hard to sacrifice a friend. Turning to his warriors, he said, "Wait for one more day. If tomorrow we do not find food, then I shall kill my horse to save your lives." The next morning the warriors sat on the ground. They could not go on without food. Standing Bear mounted his horse and rode away. He wanted to go away alone and pray to the great mystery. Pray for food that his companions and his pony might be spared. Slowly he and the pony went to the top of a hill. With eyes closed, Standing Bear prayed. When he opened them, the miracle had happened. There below him, in a little patch of green by a seeping stream, stood a lone buffalo. The pony seemed to know the thought of his master. He ran as fast as he could, ran as if he knew he was running to save men's lives and his own. Standing Bear wasted not a shot. The first one weakened his game. The second one, and his prayer was answered. He rode back to the top of the hill and waved his blanket 3 times. Then he began the skinning. In later years, Standing Bear I showed Standing Bear II the exact spot where the great mystery had placed the buffalo. The next story is called The Leap of Hawk Dreamer. Even in the days after the Sioux had horses, they still liked to hunt and travel on foot. They were so strong and swift themselves that they did not depend greatly on horses to carry them about. They could run fast over the hills and go long distances in a day. They could climb mountains and steep crags so that they could see far out over the country. Silently and quickly they could creep through the dense undergrowth of the river bottoms, and when ready for the buffalo hunt could get very close by creeping in the tall grass. When on the warpath, the Sioux could hide themselves behind rocks and trees better if not on horseback. So they were very self-reliant, and their strong arms and legs were their weapons. Hawk Dreamer was a very brave hunter and could run very fast and endure long trips. Also, he was a famous scout. He had fasted in the solitudes of the mountains for the purpose of gaining magic power, and the hawk had come to him with many secrets. So when he awoke from his dream, he became known as Hawk Dreamer. Therefore, he became swift as a hawk and feared nothing from any foe. One day, Hawk Dreamer went out to look over the hunting ground of the Sioux, and should he find the enemy on the land of his tribe, to drive them away. With him were several scouts and warriors. In a day or so, they sighted the enemy, and Hawk Dreamer went alone to see how many were in the party and what they were doing. When scouting, he dressed in white, and though very skillful, he was discovered. He at once started back for his warriors. Hawk Dreamer leapt from rock to rock like a swift-footed deer. He went over creeks and streams like a bird. Though he disappeared from the enemy over a hill, when he reached the bottom, the enemy had followed to the top. So the chase went. The enemy warriors were swift and strong too, and there being many of them, they closed on him on both sides. Straight ahead he must go. To the right was the enemy, and to the left was the enemy. Still he did not fear. So long as he could run, he was safe. He was in the land of the Sioux, and felt that the swiftness of his friend the hawk was with him. Ahead of Hawk Dreamer lay a stream. Once across he would be safe, no matter how many the enemy numbered. The bed of the stream lay deep in a steep and rocky chasm. But there was a way down to the bottom of the stream, over a rough trail like a stairway, with holes in the rocks for footholds. When he reached the edge of the stream, with the thick brush hiding him, he would disappear down the stairway as if he had leaped into the river. But the enemy was closer now, and so fast did Hawk Dreamer go that his white-robed body seemed to skim over the brush tops. To the left of him, the enemy was now so close that they had begun to laugh and shout at him, hoping to unnerve him, as was the custom of Plains Indians. Then Hawk Dreamer realized that the enemy had blocked the stairway. He could turn neither to the right nor to the left. Straight ahead he must go, though every minute his pursuers were nearer. No man and no pony had ever crossed this awful space. Even his friends on the other side could not help him now. But Hawk Dreamer had no thought of surrender. No Sioux ever surrendered. So he cried out, "Hawk, give me power, give me power. Oh, brother Hawk, give me the strength and swiftness of your wings." He put his faith in the hawk, and as he did so, felt his strength grow, and his body became lighter. Only his toes touched the ground. Again he prayed, "Brother Hawk, oh brother Hawk, give me of your power. I have never killed a hawk, and I shall always spare your lives. Help me, brother Hawk." Then he leaped. When the enemy saw the white figure of Hawk Dreamer fly through the air like a bird and land safely on the bare edge of the other side of the terrible space, they stood as men turned to stone. Hawk Dreamer was saved. The final story is called Thunder Horse. The Thunder Dreamer knows that in the sky dwell the warriors of thunder and lightning, for he has seen and spoken to them in his vision. These warriors ride wildly about on the black clouds astride their handsome horses, holding in their hands the lightning sticks which flash during a thunderstorm. Everyone has seen them flash as the warriors dash about in the stormy sky. Whenever the hooves of the horses boom, the lightning sticks flash blindingly. One day the Sioux were all in their teepees, waiting for a thunderstorm to pass. The thunder and lightning warriors were dashing back and forth across the sky. Their horses ran madly, for the noise from their feet was deafening. Mingled with the noise of the trampling hooves were the frequent flashes from the lightning sticks. Great drops of rain fell and ran off the sides of the teepees. The woman threw cedar leaves on the fire, and everyone huddled closer. Suddenly the noise increased to one awful roar. 2 lightning sticks came together, for there was a blinding flash of white light. The teepees shook, and the people were fear-stricken. 2 warriors had rushed together, and their horses, losing their balance, fell to earth, where they struggled for an instant, then dashed back to the sky. When the storm had cleared, on a great rock close by the village was plainly to be seen the hoofprint of a great horse. It is there to this day for all to see.